It's Arkansas versus the Georgia Bulldogs at Bud Walton Arena. That'll be tomorrow afternoon, 2:30. Chuck Barrett and Matt Zimmerman will be on the call with the broadcast beginning at 2 o'clock on this very station that you're listening to. Hogs will come in trying to bounce back after back-to-back losses to Missouri and Tennessee, enter with a 9-2 record, and facing Tom Crean's Georgia Bulldogs, who will come in 7-2. Let's talk about that with Matt Zimmerman, longtime assistant coach and broadcaster for Arkansas Razorback basketball and social media maven extraordinaire. Z, I don't know if you ever realize how good you are on camera. Has somebody tutored you as to how you got to present yourself on camera for your video tweets? Because you look like you went to journalism school, man.
Well, I appreciate that, Phil. I do, but no. And you know how I got doing those was I kind of wanted to do it our last year when I was still on staff, but I really couldn't pull it off with a staff member. As a staff member, I thought Coach Anderson might wring my neck, so I didn't do it. And then last year when I wasn't on staff anymore, I like to do a little bit more of a scouting report on our opponents. And on the radio, I was, we weren't really getting that deep into the scout just because of, a lot of commercials and a lot of talking and all that stuff. And so on other things and talking about the Razorbacks, that's how my little videos came about was me wanting to do a little bit more talking about our opponents. So I started doing that last year, and it's been fun. And now I do a post-game report, too. So if you don't listen to it, jump on Twitter and listen to the pregame or post-game reports. They're about 2 minutes long each.
So tell us what that post-game report said after the game at Thompson Bowling Arena, which, we had Aaron Torres on earlier, and he said, look, it's a loss, but it's a loss against a really good team on the road, that he took a lot of good things from that ballgame. Didn't want to get into moral victory area, but
right.
He saw a lot of good things. What did you see that you liked?
Yeah, I agree with that. This is Razorback basketball, a place that's been to 6 Final Fours, so you never want to say, hey, we're fine with that loss, although we played well, but there were a lot of positives. I mean, that was a game that the Razorbacks did so many things that help you win. They shot the ball well, battled, competed on the glass, did a whole lot of positive things, played pretty good defense, and got good balanced scoring from a lot of guys. Those were the positives. And the reason when you lose the ball game is 20 turnovers to 5. You can win a ball game with 20 turnovers, but your opponent better have 15 or 13 or 17. If your opponent has 5, your opponent's obviously taking care of the basketball, and you have 20. It's very, very hard to overcome that, especially on the road, number one, and number two, against a team that's pretty good. And Tennessee is a pretty good team. They're a top 10 team, and I think they're going to continue to have a pretty good season. But you want to win. You're disappointed that you don't win. But at the end of the day, we're probably not going to have a tougher road game the rest of the season than that game at Tennessee.
Yeah, and there'll be some other teams that won't be able to make all those free throws late, and
right.
and give you a real chance. And there were chances at the end to hit a three to tie or grab the lead. So you did have those opportunities.
Yep, for sure, had plenty of opportunities.
And I feel like this is a good matchup for Arkansas tomorrow against a Georgia team that isn't blessed with tons of size, and it's. Or strength necessarily. I mean, they've got a bunch of 6'3" to 6'6" guys. Their biggest player is Kamara, who's 6'8". So yeah. I don't expect to see Arkansas be pushed around at all.
No, I don't think so. I think we'll be able to score more in the paint. I think that Georgia won't defend the rim as well as Tennessee was, and challenging shots and blocking shots. And Georgia's not nearly as physical as Tennessee, so hopefully the Razorbacks can take advantage of that, and playing at home will obviously be a big factor for the Hogs. And I think that for us to compete for a conference championship, we've lost the one home game we need to lose. I mean, we don't really need to lose any more home games to still compete to win the conference. And it'll be an interesting game. Georgia's Tom Crean's had a good coaching career. But he's not been able to flip it yet at Georgia. They, finished 13th, in the last 2 years in the league out of 14 teams. So they've been at the bottom, and they've been thankful for Vanderbilt because Vanderbilt's been below them. And But they'll come in here and play hard. They'll compete. They're an SEC team. They're not going to come in and lay down. They're not going to give you anything. And the Razorbacks will have to fight and battle, just like you do in every league game, to come out on top, which hopefully is what will happen.
You know, Muss during his conferences is asked about, Justin Smith and the team without him and all of that. And I don't think he's worried about, Justin Smith right now, because you've got to accentuate the positives of what you have, not, worry about what you don't have because one of your players is injured. And I still think this is a team with quickness, with scoring ability, that can create turnovers and create points off of that. So I want to know if, without Smith, what do you think the secret sauce looks like for a well-played Arkansas win?
For tomorrow's game, I would say that, the Razorbacks do a lot what you did on Wednesday against Tennessee, play that kind of defense, maybe be a little bit tougher in the paint, but number two, attack the basket off the dribble or off cuts and getting to the basket, getting to the free throw line. We didn't shoot enough free throws the other night. I know Coach had talked about that. And then playing at home, we shouldn't be shooting 10 free throws in a game. We should shoot like Tennessee did, shoot 26, shoot 30, shoot 25 free throws at a minimum tomorrow, and get to the line. Arkansas is a pretty good free throw shooting team, and that'll be a key thing. At halftime, if we're sitting there and the Hogs have been getting to the line, they've been attacking off, in transition, attacking off the dribble, those are all going to equal success. If it's just a game where we're shooting a lot of threes and not driving it, well, as long as we're hitting the threes, we'll be fine. But if we're not, then it's going to be a lot tougher of a ball game to win. So be in attack mode on offense, and I think the Razorbacks will be in good shape tomorrow.
Coach Matt Zimmerman joining us here on Halftime. Coach, one of the big key things that I took out of that Tennessee victory was, I guess you could call it the emergence of Vance Jackson. Finally played the game that we've kind of been waiting for him to play. 33 minutes of action for him, 14 points, a trio of three-pointers. And, Coach, I think he needs to continue that trend, the strong defense that he was playing, and just getting quality minutes, especially in the absence of Justin Smith.
Well, for sure, with Justin being out, and that is a factor. But as you mentioned a second ago, Phil, you can't worry about that now. We know that he's going to be out some games, and he's already missed 2 ball games. You got to let that go. It's no fun. But hey, there's other teams that got injuries too, and you got to bow up and go play, and you can't worry about what you don't have. And Vance Jackson can sure help you forget about that a little bit more if he plays like he did in Knoxville. I mean, for him to come off the bench and score 14, he was dynamite. He played so good. He looked confident. We also saw him put it on the deck. He drove some. He's not shown that. He made that one move, step through in the lane. He looked like Alex English scoring inside. And he really made some really nice plays. And that's huge. I'm not saying he's going to get his 14 every time he steps out there, but he's capable. And he played so good in the first game of the season. And then since then, he hasn't played quite as well. And so then his minutes went down, and he hadn't played very much. And then here he is. Coach probably had him convinced going to Knoxville, hey, we need you. We're going to depend on you. You're going to have an opportunity. You got a chance. And he took advantage of that opportunity, and he really played well. If he can continue that confidence in his shot, I mean, making 3 threes was huge. It was like Tennessee didn't know he could do it. I mean, they were so far away from him on a couple of those shots, he made them pay. And even the one he missed there at the end that I think would have tied the ball game, he got a nice look at it. I thought it was going in. And I'm not talking about the shot Jalen Tate had. I realized that he had that shot to tie. But, Jackson had another big 3 right there late, but didn't mind him taking it because he was playing so well.
Zim, did I catch an Alex English reference there?
Yeah, Alex English. How about that?
So these guys have no clue who that is. Who is the more underrated of the great scorers from the 1980s, Bernard King or Alex English?
Well, Bernard King got a lot of hype, because he had the New York Knicks on his jersey. So there was a lot of hype for, that's a Tennessee ball, actually. Mm-hmm. But Bernard King, he got a lot of attention. The brother of Albert King. And they were, those were big-time scorers. So I would say the more underrated was Alex English. I used to watch him play with the Denver Nuggets. He was a smooth, fluid guy. And if he got open, he'd bury in a shot. He could really shoot it. But he was also known for those silky moves to the basket, kind of like a little bit bigger version of a George Gervin. He had finger rolls and little flip shots and floaters, and he knew how to score. And Alex English was always a threat to score. And I'm not saying Vance Jackson, I'm not trying to put that much pressure on him, but he made some moves the other night, and it's like, man, that looked like a move Alex English used to make.
Coach, I'm curious to see what happens in this ball game, because we've seen the past two games Desi Sills hasn't played his best ball, especially this week against Tennessee. 18 minutes of action, didn't score any buckets, didn't really make a difference on the pretty much anywhere. I mean, defensively, he had a few stops here and there, but offensively, that's where he shines. And I understand that he's more of a streaky shooter, and he kind of goes through hills and valleys and everything. What needs to happen to get Desi Sills comfortable in this offense and get back to the Desi Sills that we saw in the latter half of the SEC season last year?
Well, I think he's comfortable in the offense, and he's averaging 14 points a game going into the last one. I think not scoring that dropped him down some. And as you said, he's had 2 games now where he hadn't scored. Missouri game, he was still in attack mode. He was still aggressive. He just missed a lot of shots closer to the basket that he makes. And he even had a couple threes that we've been used to seeing him make. And so that just kind of got him a little bit in a rut, and we all knew he'd bounce back against Tennessee. And then at the end of the ball game, he hadn't scored. He just never got in a rhythm that we've seen him get in. He is a lot like JD in the fact that he's better attacking the basket. He needs to be aggressive, going to the hole. I think Desi has always been really good in transition, sprinting the floor, getting the ball, attacking that basket. He's like a bulldog. People don't want to get in front of him. He's strong, he's physical, and he can finish. And so that's what he has to do. And if he gets open, hey, shoot a 3 because we know that you can make it. Go ahead and shoot it. But he's got to be in a mindset, I'm attacking the basket. And it looked like the other night he just didn't get that many opportunities. And, you got to give some credit to Tennessee, too. They did a pretty good job guarding him. And sometimes Desi gets fortunate, and he'll have 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2" guys guarding him. He's way too physical for those guys. Whereas Tennessee had 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" guys that were guarding him at times, and that seemed like that size and their length and their athletic ability kind of hurt him a little bit. I think he'll have a big bounce back. I think back to Athens last year. They're beating the dog out of us. It's like 14-0. And the horn sounds, and Coach puts in Desi. He was coming off the bench at that time of year. This was a March ball game or end of February. And Desi comes in off that bench, and he played his tail off and scored over 20 points coming off the bench against Georgia. So hopefully he can dig into that and have that feeling like he had against Georgia last year. Say, hey, I've played very well against these guys before. I can do it again. And I look for a really good bounce-back game from him.
Z, appreciate your time, man. Have a great call tomorrow. We will definitely be listening.
Yeah.
Always appreciate you.
Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Matt.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Coach.
Okay.
And thanks for the Alex English reference, too.
I'd heard the name before.
It was one that definitely, I forget the name of the movie that he was in, where he played an NBA basketball player that retires in order to help a kid advocate against nuclear weapons. It was an interesting idea. Anyway, don't forget to go to 906 Lounge in the Fort for great food, great drinks, great cigars, and an atmosphere that reminds you more like a nightclub. And they have an outstanding air filtration system that replaces their air entirely every 5 minutes. So you'll have great air. And they do also go by all the social distancing guidelines. They're open until 11 o'clock throughout the weekend. That's 906 Cocktail and Cigar Lounge. Go to 906lounge.com to learn more. They're on 906 Garrison in the Fort. All right, we'll wrap the show up after this.